This was also a really interesting week because, Pat, you had a great post on LinkedIn about all the flag planting by every CEO in the semiconductor space, whereas there was like 3 or 4 that were actually really visible throughout the whole process, and then there were 100 that were taking pictures on the front lawn of the White House.
I got to tell you, man, I got 20,000 views of that tweet. There were no graphics. There were no, and guess who the demographic who looked at it the most?
CEOs.
CEOs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we know you're watching. We know you're looking.
We know who you are.
We know who you are. But yeah, I mean, your post was effectively just talking about the fact that there was a small subset of CEOs that took a big interest in the CHIPS and Science Act. And then there were a number that were signing on and kind of tagging along for the ride, but weren't very active. And again, there's different reasons, and there's certainly a disproportionate amount of dollars that could be attributed to certain companies. Those that are planning to build fabs and manufacture chips here in the U.S. got more money. Now, there is another $200 billion that will be appropriated for various R&D and innovation that now maybe we'll hear everybody come out and talk about. But that's a little bit less the news. But I couldn't resist tying this in.
By the way, the White House invites you. You're gonna go, but I had to bring it up.
Why didn't we get invited?
I don't know.
I did like 50 television appearances talking about how this needed to be done.
Brother, I know in the 6.5 Summit, I would say at least 3/4 of the folks mentioned one way or another the CHIPS Act. So I don't know. Maybe it's my Twitter feed. I'm sorry, Daniel, if I blew your.
I think you got me banned.
I don't know. Maybe they did a security check on you, and they're like, "Nope."
Yeah, they were like, "Too much hair.
Yep.
All right. Yep. So, but anyway, so like Global Foundries, Micron's another big manufacturer. Obviously, in the memory space is the focus for Micron, but. And we're going to talk quite a bit about Micron, actually, for the next 10 minutes. But the company announced now the plan to invest another $40 billion between now and 2030 to make chips in the U.S. Of course, this is going to be supported by the CHIPS and Science Act that got signed into law this week. And in really good news, Micron has said, now this is a big part of why we did it, this is going to create upwards of 40,000 jobs. Including 5,000 highly paid technical and operational roles. This capacity would basically take the U.S. market share of memory chip production from 2% to 10%. Huge deal. Now, again, this is a sort of an early flag plant, early into the post-CHIPS and Science Act. I'm guessing that we're going to hear more of these kinds of announcements from manufacturers, foundries, fabricators here in the U.S. But it was a big moment for the company. We've talked, Pat, probably it feels like after last week, what do we do? The 232 NAND, the super technical
232 layer NAND, yeah.
This is less technical, but Micron's come up more and more. And the long and short of it is the critical nature of memory as compute and performance and continues to be enhanced is that with memory has to come along for the ride. And Micron becomes a really awesome bellwether as to how the monolithic and new packaging technologies are going to perform because the memory has to come along for the ride. All these new technologies, all these new processes are going to require more memory. So effectively, we've now had Global Foundries make the announcement. We've had Intel make their $100 billion announcement, and now Micron stepping up and making a $40 billion announcement. Now, just for reference, China has 40 projects right now, if I understand it correctly, building more manufacturing capacity. Taiwan has 20 projects. So we're still early days here. We might have put up $52 billion, and we may have heard from Micron, Global Foundries, and Intel all expanding capacity, but we still got a lot of work left to do. But it's good for Micron to continue investing here. It's been a company that's been investing here, planning to invest more here in the U.S., Pat, and it was just something worth calling out this week.
I mean, Chinese government invested $200 billion to build semiconductor plants. And what do we do here in the U.S. is we put that $200 billion into woke programs who don't actually move industry or science or national security forward. So, yeah, I mean, I do the golf clap on that 50 billion, but, compared to what China is investing, it's not a whole lot. And Daniel, I'm gonna hit on, I think, just the strategic nature of memory and storage. So for years, the 40, 50 years, it was really processors that were on top of the food chain that dictated the architecture, let's say, of a data center, or the architecture of a PC or a smartphone. And I could argue that you can affiliate that or compare that. Memory is so tightly coupled with compute that it's as strategic. Now with CXL, which is high speed interface, and the ability to have memory as a composable piece of the architecture, it completely is going to change the architecture of the data centers. All the big data center folks are going to have to re-architect it over the next 5 years. So, I can say with confidence that in the data center, memory has equal footing with processing and storage now. Hence, its importance and the addition of this $40 billion investment.